In November 2024, Lufthansa sold two of their Boeing 747-8s to the United States Air Force for $400 million. These weren't old planes headed for scrap. They were barely 10 years old, some of the youngest 747s ever built. But here's the twist. Lufthansa still flies 24 more of them. They're selling to the military while keeping the rest for passengers. The Queen of the Skies, as pilots call her, first flew in 1969. She's older than the internet, older than the moon landing was when she debuted. Airlines have spent the last decade racing to retire their 747s. British Airways threw a farewell party. Qantas painted one in retro colors for a nostalgic send-off. Even Boeing stopped making them in 2023 after building them for 54 years. The age of four-engine jets is over, everyone agreed. Except Lufthansa. They're not just keeping their 747s flying, they're the last passenger airline on Earth still operating them in significant numbers. Why? Why is Lufthansa clinging to a plane the entire industry says makes no sense anymore? The answer reveals something fascinating about how business logic sometimes loses to human obsession. And it's complicated. The 747 changed everything about how we fly. Before 1970, long-haul flying was expensive and exclusive. If you wanted to cross an ocean, you squeezed into a narrow-body plane with 150 other people. Then Juan Trippe, the head of Pan Am, had a wild idea. What if we made planes bigger? Not a little bigger. Massively bigger. He challenged Boeing to build something that could carry 400 passengers. Boeing the 747, the first wide-body double-decker jumbo jet. It was enormous. When it first rolled out of the factory in 1968, a crowd of 50,000 people showed up just to stare at it. The thing looked like it shouldn't be able to fly. Lufthansa ordered their first 747s in 1970, becoming one of the launch customers alongside Pan Am. They called them jumbo jets, and Germans fell in love immediately. The 747 became Lufthansa's flagship, their pride, their identity, and flew them on every major long-haul route, Frankfurt to New York, Munich to Tokyo. For 50 years, this relationship held. But by the 2010s, the world changed. The problem with four engines is simple. They're expensive. Four engines mean 4 times the maintenance, 4 times the parts that can break, 4 times the fuel burn. And modern jet engines have become incredibly reliable, so reliable that you don't need 4 anymore. Twin-engine planes like the Boeing 777 and 787, or the Airbus A350, can fly just as far as the 747, burn 25% less fuel. 25%. For an airline operating 10-hour flights every single day, that's millions of dollars per plane, per year. The economics became brutal. Airlines started retiring 747s in waves, except Lufthansa. In 2006, Lufthansa ordered 20 747-8s, the newest, largest, most advanced version Boeing had ever built. The 747-8 was 250 feet long, even bigger than the original, and could carry 364 passengers in Lufthansa's configuration. It was more fuel efficient than older 747s, with new engines and redesigned wings. But it was still a 4-engine plane in a twin-engine world. Boeing hoped the 747-8 would revive the Queen's fortunes. It didn't. Airlines ordered just 47 passenger versions total. Most customers bought the cargo variant instead, but Lufthansa kept ordering. So what is Lufthansa seeing that everyone else missed? Or are they just being stubborn and romantic, choosing heritage over profit? The truth is more nuanced. There are 3 reasons Lufthansa still flies the 747, and only one of them makes financial sense. First, Frankfurt's hub strategy. Lufthansa runs one of Europe's most powerful airline hubs at Frankfurt Airport. Hub and spoke means you collect passengers from dozens of smaller cities, funnel them through Frankfurt, and then blast them across oceans on big planes. The system only works if those big planes are completely full. The 747-8 carries 364 passengers. If Lufthansa can fill those seats, and on routes like Frankfurt to New York or Los Angeles, they usually can, the per-passenger cost becomes competitive with smaller planes. It's a math equation. A 747-8 costs more to operate than a 787, but if it carries 100 more passengers, those 100 people absorb the extra costs. This only works on ultra-high demand routes. Frankfurt to New York JFK sees massive traffic, business travelers, tourists, connecting passengers from all over Europe. Same with Frankfurt to Bangkok, or Singapore, or Washington Dulles. These routes are thick enough to justify a jumbo jet. Lufthansa strategically deploys 747s only on these trunk routes where they know they'll get the load factor, the percentage of seats filled, above 85%. Below that, the economics collapse. Above it, the 747 becomes viable. Lufthansa already owns these planes. They've already trained their pilots, their mechanics, their ground crews. They've already built the infrastructure. The marginal cost of keeping 747s flying is lower than the cost of replacing them with new twins. A brand new 787 costs around $250 million. A brand new A350 costs similar. Lufthansa's 747-8s are already paid for. Yes, they burn more fuel, but fuel is just one operating cost. If the plane is generating revenue and the seats are full, it still makes money. Maybe not as much as a twin would, but money is money. The 747 is Lufthansa's identity. Walk into Lufthansa's headquarters in Cologne, and you'll see 747s everywhere. Models, paintings, photographs. Lufthansa's pilots call flying the 747 the pinnacle of the career. It's what you aspire to. Training on the 747 is prestigious. When Lufthansa promotes their brand, they show the 747, not the A350, not the 787. The 747. That bubble nose against a sunset, that unmistakable silhouette. It's their symbol. This matters more than outsiders realize. Airlines aren't just transportation companies, they're brands selling an experience, a feeling. Lufthansa's brand is German engineering, precision, legacy, tradition. The 747 embodies all of that. Carsten Spohr, Lufthansa's CEO, has said openly that the 747 is part of Lufthansa's DNA. In 2020, during the pandemic when most airlines were frantically retiring planes to cut costs, Lufthansa insisted they'd keep flying 747s for years to come. They didn't just mean the ones they owned, they meant the new ones they'd ordered. Critics called it nostalgic foolishness. Maybe it is. But it's also brand positioning. When every other airline flies the same Airbus A350s and Boeing 787s, Lufthansa stands out. They're the ones still flying the Queen. Of course, emotion doesn't pay the bills. In 2021, Lufthansa quietly announced they'd begin phasing out the passenger 747 fleet by 2030. Not immediately, but gradually. As the planes age, as maintenance costs rise, as newer twins become available, the 747s will disappear, one by one.